When God starts removing people, opportunities, and comfort from your life, it does not feel spiritual at first. It feels personal, confusing, cruel, like punishment or abandonment. All the things you prayed for seem to be pulled away instead of protected. Many misunderstand this season. When God shifts your life at the soul level, He doesn't always begin by adding. Sometimes He begins by removing. He removes people who kept you attached to a smaller version of yourself. He removes comfort that kept you asleep, and opportunities wrong for your spirit. He removes distractions that kept you from your truth, and false stability draining your life force. Most people don't say, "Maybe God is elevating me." They ask, "Why is everything falling apart?" No one prepares you for spiritual growth that arrives through loss. Your next level may begin with emptiness. God may answer your prayer by dismantling the life you thought you wanted to keep. Your soul and comfort aren't always walking in the same direction. Comfort is familiar, not always holy. Your mind wants relief, but your soul needs truth. Truth isn't always gentle when it enters a life built on compromise. Loss can become sacred, not because pain is beautiful, but because sometimes removal is rescue. You think God is taking something away, but sometimes God is taking something off of you. A bond weakening your discernment, a path feeding your pride, a comfort numbing your hunger for truth, a version of you that could survive, but not rise in the spirit. This removal hurts deeply. The soul senses meaning, while the human heart still feels grief. You may know something bigger is happening, but you still cry, feel empty, rejected. You ask why the timing is brutal, the silence long, the lesson costly. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Divine movement doesn't always feel like peace initially. Sometimes it feels like collapse, like everyone you leaned on is gone, doors closing in your face. The place that gave comfort now feels dry and lifeless. You don't know whether to wait, fight, grieve, or let go. You stand in that middle place, not where you used to be, not yet where you're meant to become. That middle place can feel unbearable. God often empties the hand before He fills the life. He breaks dependency, exposes false love, removes counterfeit peace before introducing true peace. In the middle of it, maturity, the ability to sit in pain without naming it failure, the faith to believe closed doors are divine, the humility to accept that things leaving your life are not signs you were forgotten, they are signs you are being prepared. One of the most painful things God removes is people. That pain reaches deeper than most admit. When someone leaves your life, it affects your identity, especially if they held a version of you together. Maybe they made you feel wanted, needed, or gave you validation. You built your life around their presence. That is why some separations hurt beyond words. They expose where your soul became entangled with dependency or fear. God sometimes removes people before He reveals purpose. Some relationships delay your peace and distort discernment. You cannot rise while clinging to a bond that only works when you stay smaller, quieter, or less honest. We often want God to bless what we are emotionally attached to make it work, to keep the connection. But growth does not always happen that way. Sometimes the person you pray to keep is blocking your true self. Not everyone is assigned to your becoming. Some are part of your chapter, but not your calling. When God removes them, it can feel like your heart is being torn open. The emotional body experiences shock. You replay memories, question timing, and ache over how someone so important can become so distant. But sometimes that emptiness is not there to punish you. It is there to show you how much of yourself you placed outside of God. This is not condemnation, but revelation. When a person becomes your source of identity, that bond breaks. God will not allow your soul to anchor itself permanently in what cannot truly sustain it. Divine removal is rarely random. It is precise. It touches the bond that became too powerful. God separates you from confusion disguised as love, from dependency disguised as loyalty. Your soul cannot rise while your heart is chained to what keeps wounding your discernment. God removes people not to make you empty, but clear. Clear enough to hear, to see, to stop calling attachment love, and pain a sign to hold on longer. Clear enough to stop worshiping what was only meant to pass through your life. Part 3. Sometimes God does not just remove people. Sometimes He removes opportunities. And that kind of loss creates a different kind of pain. Because when an opportunity disappears, The grief is not only about what was, it is about what could have been. The job you thought would change everything. The offer you were certain was your breakthrough. The path that looked perfect on paper. The chance you prayed for, prepared for, imagined, and emotionally entered before it ever fully arrived. And then suddenly it closes. No explanation that satisfies you. No timing that makes sense. No ending that feels fair. Just silence. Just confusion. Just the shock of realizing that what looked so right to your mind was still removed from your hands. And that kind of loss is hard because it attacks your vision. It makes you question your intuition. It makes you question your worth. It makes you question whether you misunderstood the signs, whether you dreamed too big, whether you were simply rejected. But sometimes rejection is not the right word. Sometimes it was redirection. Because there are opportunities that would have advanced your image while weakening your soul. There are doors that would have given you status but stolen your peace. There are environments that would have rewarded your performance while starving your inner life. There are blessings that look powerful from the outside, but quietly train you to abandon your alignment. And God sees what you cannot. He sees the weight attached to the thing you are calling a breakthrough. He sees the hidden cost. He sees the compromise built into the opportunity. He sees the version of you that would have been fed by it, and the deeper version of you that would have been delayed by it. That is why some closed doors are not punishment. They are protection you only understand later. The problem is, later can feel very far away when you are standing in disappointment. When something falls through, the human mind does not immediately say, "Thank you, God, for this unseen protection." It says, "Why did you let me hope for this? Why did you bring me this close? Why would you show me a possibility just to take it away?" Those questions come from real pain. Because disappointed hope can be one of the heaviest feelings a person carries. And when disappointment repeats, it does something dangerous. It tempts you to shrink. To stop believing deeply. To stop expecting goodness. To stop trusting your path. To settle for less. To numb yourself so the next closed door will not hurt as much. But that is exactly what this season must not turn you into. Because when God removes false opportunity, He is not asking you to become cynical. He is asking you to become consecrated. He is asking you to become more careful about what you call success, more honest about what your spirit can actually carry, more aware that not every open door is divine, and not every closed door is a curse. And then there is comfort. Comfort is the hardest thing to lose quietly, because people do not always notice when it leaves. Sometimes nothing dramatic happens, no huge breakup, no obvious failure, no public collapse. You just start feeling dry in places that used to soothe you. The habits stop working. The entertainment stops numbing you. The routines feel empty. The place feels too small. The conversations feel repetitive. The safety you once clung to begins to feel like stagnation. And that can be terrifying, because comfort becomes dangerous when it starts replacing aliveness. There are seasons where God will let your comforts go cold, not because He hates you, but because He refuses to let your soul sleep inside a life you have outgrown. That is love, too. A severe kind of love. A love that does not always feel tender. A love that disturbs what has become too small. A love that interrupts what has become too safe. A love that shakes the inner structure of a life so a truer one can emerge. That is what many people are experiencing when they say, "My life still looks okay, but something feels dead." That deadness is not always depression. Sometimes it is divine dissatisfaction. A holy unrest. A signal that the old container cannot hold the next version of your spirit. A sign that peace will not return through comfort alone, because you are being asked to rise, not just relax. So what is God really doing when He removes people, opportunities, and comfort before your soul rises? He is breaking false dependence. That is the center of it. He is teaching you the difference between what holds you emotionally and what holds you spiritually. He is exposing where your identity was tied to approval, attachment, outcomes, routine, validation, noise, or familiarity. He is pulling you out of those places not to destroy you, but to rebuild you on something deeper. Because a soul cannot rise while it is leaning too heavily on what keeps changing. People change. Opportunities change. Comfort changes. Life changes. And if your whole center is built on what changes, every shift will feel like death. So God begins the holy work of relocation. Not relocation of your address, relocation of your center. He begins moving you inward, deeper, closer to what is real, closer to what cannot be taken, closer to the kind of faith that does not depend on immediate evidence, closer to the kind of peace that is not borrowed from circumstances, closer to the kind of identity that remains intact even when life becomes uncertain. That process is not easy. In fact, it may be one of the most painful seasons you ever lived through, because everything your old self trusted starts becoming unstable. The people you leaned on may not feel the same. The future you imagined may fall apart. And suddenly you are face to face with yourself, with God, and with the raw truth. That truth can humble you, but it can also free you. You stop begging it to become permanent. You stop chasing what cannot carry you. You stop forcing doors that do not honor your spirit. You stop grieving every loss as if God abandoned you. Instead, something new begins growing. Discernment, depth, inner steadiness, a quieter faith, a cleaner relationship with love, a more honest relationship with desire, a deeper ability to wait without collapsing, a stronger ability to lose without losing yourself. That is soul rise. Soul rise is when your life begins standing on truth instead of dependency, when your peace is no longer controlled by who stays, when your worth is no longer controlled by which door opens, when your inner life becomes stronger than the external instability around you, when loss still hurts, but it no longer defines you, when silence still stretches, but it no longer makes you panic, when God's hand becomes more real to you than the things He removed. That is what this season is preparing. So if you are in the middle of it right now, hear me clearly. You are not being singled out for pain. You are not being punished because life feels stripped down. You are not forgotten because the room went quiet. You are not spiritually failing because you feel shaken. You may be in the exact season where God is removing everything that cannot go where your soul is being called. And yes, it hurts when people leave. Yes, it hurts when opportunities close. But pain is not always the opposite of purpose. Sometimes pain is the sound of false support breaking. Sometimes pain is what you feel when God is pulling roots out of places where you were never meant to remain planted. Sometimes pain is the doorway between survival and transformation. Do not rush to rebuild the same comfort just because the emptiness feels unfamiliar. Do not assume that because God removed it, you lost. You may have been released. Released from delay. Released from confusion. Released from counterfeit peace. Released from a smaller life. And one day, you may look back at this season and realize the people leaving were not the tragedy. The real tragedy would have been staying asleep inside all of it. This season is not here to break your spirit. It is here to raise it. And if this made sense to you, don't lose it in your feed. Like the video, share it with someone on this path, and subscribe.